So the first camera that we're going to look at is the Nikon D5000. This camera is very similar to other Nikon such as the D40 and the D60, and a lot of the settings are changed on the LCD on the back here. If I just initiate the camera, then we can see that a lot of the settings are just changed by pressing this I button in the bottom left hand corner, and then we can move from one setting to the other using this control dial at the back. Before we look at this, let's have a look at the exposure mode dial at the top. So here we have the fully automatic mode. This is where the camera decides what the aperture and shutter speed is going to be, and there's very little that we can override on that setting. Then we have all the scene modes here: portrait mode, landscape mode, sports, etc. But the ones we're looking at in this series is mainly the program mode, shutter priority, aperture priority, and manual modes. There's program mode. So if you're in program mode and you want to change a setting, first of all, make sure the camera is switched on, which it is, then half press the shutter button and that will turn the LCD on at the back. And then in this lighting condition, you can see the camera has chosen a 1/160th of a second shutter speed at f6.3. Now even in program mode you can change that if you wish. You see that we're now in program star mode and we're changing the aperture. You can actually see a picture of the apertures getting bigger or smaller. So that's program mode. Now let's go to shutter priority mode, that's the S. That's the shutter button again. And now in shutter priority mode, the dial at the back will change the shutter speed. So there's a 250th, 320, 400, etc. So go one way, we change the shutter speed, go the other way, and as we change the shutter speed, it's changing the aperture to give you that shutter speed for this lighting condition. When we go to aperture priority mode, this dial will now change the aperture. It looks like exactly the same thing's happening, but we are actually changing the aperture and the camera's now trying to find a suitable shutter speed. Now let's go to manual mode. In manual mode, we need to change both the shutter speed and the aperture. Our aim here is to get the light meter, which is this strip here, to read 0. At the moment, we can see that it's pointing to the plus sign, so we're currently overexposed. So our goal is to change both the shutter speed and the aperture so that we have an arrow in the middle at 0. So let's first of all choose a shutter speed of 125th of a second. So I'm just moving the back dial. We've gone past it, there we go. So at 125th of a second, we are still overexposed. Each large line is one f-stop and each dot is 1/3. So we're currently 1 1/3 of a stop overexposed. So now we need to change the aperture. And to do that on this camera, because there's only one dial, we have to press and hold the plus minus button here. So I'm holding that down, and then now we move the dial and now we're changing the aperture. So in these lighting conditions, 1/25th of a second, or it's changing of course, and at f8 is the perfect exposure for this backdrop. So that's manual mode, where we're changing both the aperture and the shutter speed.